concentration of Republican voters is in the United States of America? It's Los Angeles County. There are 1 million Republican voters in Los Angeles County. If every single one of them got out and voted, the Democrats would lose LA County. If they lost LA County, they'd lose California. If they lost California, they'd never win another election ever again. So we don't have any excuse but to go to those booths back there and sign up and get 5 people who you don't know who would have voted, not have voted otherwise, out to the polls. But let's talk quickly about what's at stake. A couple of the difference between our team and their team really need to be clarified for everybody. So let's talk about one of them. Our side believes in small government and free enterprise. That's one of the things we believe in. Now, many people think these are separate concepts, but they're not. They're actually welded together. Because every society has to do a certain number of things. Every society has to have gas done, and they have to have laundry services, and they have to have the food delivered, and they have to provide electricity. This is the first society in the history of the world ever that decided to provide those services by having groups of people get together voluntarily, pick something that they love, band together to provide a service for a profit, and make people's lives better in addition to filling those needs. It's an entirely new way of doing things. One of the reasons I've been such a strong anti-socialist all my life is because I've met 2 people who actually escaped from communism. Not the kind of communism your kids learn in Harvard. I'm talking about the real communism. I had a friend who escaped from Bulgaria and another friend who escaped from Cuba. Both of them ran for their lives to come here. And by the way, you can go down to South Florida and spend the next 100 years down there, and you will never once see a dentist drive his Mercedes down to the beach, put his aged grandmother, his wife, and his little baby onto a chase lounge, strap some inner tubes on there, and sail south 90 miles to get to the free universal health care. You will never see that happen, not once. Every single one of those rafts is coming this way. Every single raft is coming from socialism to capitalism. Every single person that went over the Berlin Wall came this way. Nobody got shot going into East Berlin to get to the excellent socialist medicine system. So this is what people are ready to give their lives for, to come to this idea of private enterprise. So why does that work better? Well, right now, as free Americans, the only chance we get to really interact directly with our government really is in 3 places. It's the DMV, it's the passport office, and it's the post office. How do those experiences work out for you? You guys have a good time? You look forward to that? No? Why? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the people I know who escaped from real socialism told me why. They said the idea of the secret police being able to shoot you in the middle of the night is terrifying, but the worst thing about living in a socialist society is the fact that every single minute of every single day, you are reminded of how useless and unimportant you are. Your time means nothing. Those people at the DMV do not get paid by the customer. They do not get bonuses based on their service. If they do 2 people an hour or 20, it doesn't matter to them. That's what the alternative is. So of course we believe in private enterprise, not just because it's more efficient, but because it's a better way to live. You know, in the final days of the Soviet Union, old women, 90-year-old women, would stand in line in Moscow winters in 50-degree below zero temperatures to wait in line to get in a store to see if there was anything for sale. I mean, that's just unbelievable. If you lived in the Soviet Union and your toilet backed up, you might have to wait 10 days for a plumber to come. If you wanted an apartment, that was a 10-year wait. If you wanted a car, it was a 20-year wait. You're just a cog. They don't care about you. It's only here where we care about individuals. And you'll hear liberals say things like, oh, well, government is more moral. Government's more moral than businesses because businesses are in it for a profit. That's utter nonsense. Private businesses are infinitely more moral than the government is because the government takes your money by force. It gives you products of the quality that you don't like, and you can't go anywhere else if you don't like what the government is giving you. It's coercion. A private business, like all of you own or work for, has to voluntarily persuade you to give you their money. If they're not doing a good job, you can go to another group of people who will voluntarily persuade you to give you your money. It's a much more moral and decent place and way to live. That's what they're trying to destroy over there at the Staples Center right as we speak at this very moment. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. I think the second thing we believe in as conservatives, and another reason why this election is just so damn important, is this idea that many of our speakers have spoken about today, and that's the idea of natural law. You know, this country is the only country in the history of the world that was ever founded on natural law. Most people don't even really know what natural law is, but natural law is the belief that there is a law of God or nature that supersedes political law. It lives above political law. And if you think about it, the Declaration of Independence is really just the country basically saying to the world, hey world, guess what? We're about to break the law. We are the property of King George. These are his colonies. We are about to break political law, but we are going to appeal to a higher law, to natural law, because all men and women have a right to determine their own existence. King George has violated that political right, so we're appealing to the laws of God above us, and that's why we're going to become independent. Why is this important to us today? Well, it's important to us today because this country is the only country in the world that is founded on a principle that you need to understand in your bones because it is very widely misunderstood. Many of you out there think that the First Amendment to the Constitution, by example, grants you the right to free speech. It does no such thing. The First Amendment of the Constitution says that you have the right to free speech in you at birth. The minute you are arriving on this planet as an American, you have that right. It was given to you by God, and no one can take it away from you. No one. No one can take these rights away from us. So when we see government, especially the federal government, growing bigger and more powerful, we get the understanding as Americans that they think that Barack Obama thinks that since the government gives us the right to free speech, he can take it away. But it didn't come from the government. Barack Obama can't take away anybody's right to free speech or anybody's right to due process or any of that other stuff. It's natural law. And this presidency is using so many executive orders, so many circumventions of Congress. If you're not aware of just what's going on here, it would scare you to death. It'd scare you enough to go out and vote. It really would. So let's talk about the final thing I think that's really important in this election based on what we've seen of 4 years of failure from this miserable narcissist. Here's the fundamental difference. Here's the fundamental difference, I believe, in liberals and conservatives. I think you can take liberals and conservatives in America today and put them down on the wedge that I'm about to describe to you. Liberals think that a businessman with a $20 million business jet is a villain because he's taken $20 million of money out of a limited pot of money. He's taken, what do they say all the time? More than his fair share. And since he's taken $20 million out of society, that means this woman doesn't get health care and this kid doesn't get to go to college and all these other horrible things because the man's taken his $20 million for his own greedy self. Now, conservatives believe in the idea of wealth creation. And conservatives look at that businessman and they say, no, don't be ridiculous. This guy has a $20 million jet because he's created hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of wealth for everybody. He's kept a little sliver of it for himself as his reward. Money can be created out of thin air. Not money, rather, wealth. They can print all the money they want to. They're doing that right now. Wealth can be created out of thin air. So, which one is it? Which one is it? Is the pot of money in the world limited and the liberals are right and rich people are villains? Or can wealth be created out of thin air? Well, when you get home, get on your computers and Google downtown Los Angeles, 1856. You'll see 2 adobe huts and a hitching post. And if you look past these buildings, it's improved somewhat since then. So where did all this stuff come from? Where did all these Mercedes-Benzes come from, and these flat-screen TVs, and these video cameras, and these iPhones and iPads? Where did all this wealth come from if the richest Americans in the world 100 years ago might have a carriage maybe with 8 horses, and I drove here in a carriage with 306? How did this happen? Of course wealth can be created out of thin air. Anytime you come up with an idea or a story for a screenplay, you've generated wealth that wasn't there before. If you sketch out a business plan, you've created wealth that wasn't there before. If there's an empty lot, now there's your dry cleaning store there or your auto repair store. You have added to the total wealth of this country and made America a richer place, and everybody shares in that wealth. But the real reason I want to hit this point is this. This is the most anti-business president this country has ever seen ever. There is $5 trillion of capital sitting in the private sector waiting to go to new factories and into trucks and into new hires, and they're not spending it, and they're smart not to spend it because they don't know who's going to be demonized next, what's the tax rates going to be. The Democrats haven't passed a budget in almost 4 years. New regulations come down every day. So let me leave you with one last thing about the economy and how the economy generates wealth, because if you understand wealth creation, you will never vote Democrat again in your entire life. So let's take the economy and let's walk it back to its earliest, simplest days. Let's say we have two tribes of different people. We've got a mountain tribe and they're hunters and they live up in the mountains, and we've got a gatherer tribe and they live down on the seashore. Now, the hunter tribe up in the mountains hunts for a living. That's all they do. So they make spears, and their spears are terrific. They're solid, they're straight, they're strong. They've got an awesome stone spear tip on them. They carve little pictures of antelopes in them. They're fantastic. But they don't do a lot of gathering up there in the mountains, so their baskets kind of look like birds' nests. Now, down below, in the gatherer tribe, they occasionally throw a spear at a fish, but it's a crooked stick and it breaks half the time, but they gather all the time, so their baskets are woven so tight that they can hold water. Okay, everybody got that? Now, one day, somebody from the mountain tribe meets somebody from the gatherer tribe halfway between, and they look at each other, and the guy with the spear says, you know, I gotta tell you, that is the nicest damn basket I have ever seen in my life. And the guy with the basket says, well, sir, I have to say, your spear is superior to anything I've ever seen. So they get the bright idea that the guy with the really good basket trades it for the guy with the really good spear. Both of them go home, and now the magic happens. Which one of them goes back richer? Both of them go back richer. Both of them go back richer. Yes, smart people. That's why you're here and not downtown. You have a brain. You can figure these things out. Both of them go back richer. Because when the guy goes back up to the hunter tribe, he's got a basket that no one else in the village has seen. And if the guy's smart, if he's like me, he'll basically be seen taking it into the cave, and then he'll stand outside and say, ladies, we'll have a private showing of the basket later this evening. For those of you who might like to stop by with a little bit of grog, I can arrange a private showing of the deluxe basket. Now, if that caveman guy is a proto-democrat, that basket's going to sit in the cave and people are going to pay the shiny rocks to see the basket, and eventually over 4 or 5 generations it'll just dissolve and fall apart. But if that hunter is a Republican, he will go to sleep that night and he'll say, I just traded one good spear for one good basket. I need to make 2 spears a day to survive. If I get up an hour earlier tomorrow morning, I bet you I could make an extra spear. As a matter of fact, if I stay up an hour late, I bet I could make 2 extra spears. And then I can take those 2 extra spears, go back down, and trade them for 2 extra baskets. And oh my God, my daughter is not going to starve after all. I finally have a job for my idiot son-in-law. He can make the spears, I'll supervise, and everything will be great. So, what happens? What happens? The people down below get excellent spears that they never had before. The people up above get excellent baskets that they never had before. The people that are doing the trading get a little more shiny stones or a little more pebbles. But who loses in this transaction? Nobody. Nobody loses. Everybody wins. This is the foundational idea of our economy, and our economy drives our military, and it drives all of our economic freedoms. This is what that man in the Staples Center is determined to destroy, and we are not going to let this miracle vanish without a trace from this earth. So let me just close by saying this. I don't know what's going to happen this election. It's a lot closer than makes any sense to me. Frankly, I'm surprised that Romney's not up by 30 points. I personally believe in my heart of hearts, I'm not just telling you this, I think we're going to whip these Marxist bastards out of their boots. Out of their boots. Let me say this to you now while we're all here. Okay, let me just say something to you now while we're all here. If we don't win this election, this country will be in trouble. But I want to leave you with a thought that you can go home with, okay? If we don't win this election, we're going to have even more damage to undo. But you need to understand something about the United States of America. The United States of America was birthed in a victory against the most powerful military force on the face of the earth. The United States of America fought the toughest opponents on the planet, and that is other Americans in the Civil War. The United States of America defeated Nazi Germany and their technological miracles. They defeated Imperial Japan and their unbelievable sense of heroism and sacrifice. They defeated the communists that took over 2/3 of the world. And now they've defeated Al-Qaeda and the rest of those 7th century savages. So, the British are gone, the rebels are gone, the Germans are gone, the Japanese are gone, the communists are gone, Al-Qaeda's gone, and we're still here. And if you think that some Botox harpy from San Francisco, a sleazy car dealer from Nevada, the dumbest man in all of Delaware, and a 2-bit narcissistic punk from Chicago is going to kill that, you are out of your minds. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice of you. And I would normally just retire in a cloud of humility, but I wanted to make a moment because I have a special guest come up here. This person kind of came up at the last minute. I met her at